Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here today with our guest, Bill McGuire, and we're going to be talking about how RIAs can grow their practices through effective marketing. Just a quick thought. Most people, most advisors are either in the process of trying to buy a practice, or maybe they're, closing in on the end of their career and they want to sell their practice. But both buyers and sellers have one thing in common. It's better to do it. It's better to do either of those things if you can do them from a position of strength. And a position of strength in our industry is all about growth. So if you're a buyer, for example, and your practice is growing, increasing, that makes you a more attractive person to sell to. And also, certainly if you're a seller and your practice is a growing on the way up practice, you're going to get a much better price than if you're kind of stagnant or going down. And that's why I asked Bill to be on our podcast today, because Bill, or webinar rather, because Bill is a RIA growth expert and marketing strategist. And he's done that working with a variety of our RIAs of all different sizes for the past 15 years. I also want to add, just on a personal note, Bill is very active in an organization called STACK, which is an organization of people who work, servicing or helping RIAs. I've referred, a bunch of people to Bill as part of that over the years, and he tries to help everyone. Doesn't matter if they're a business prospect, not a business prospect. It really doesn't matter. He always tries to help them. So I also want to say he's a very nice person. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to chat with Bill maybe for 15-20 minutes. Then we're going to open it up to your questions and comments. And then, in the next day or two, we'll send everybody who registered the recording. So why don't we get it going, Bill? Thank you very much for being here. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
my pleasure, Mark. And thank you for inviting me. I know you've been doing these for a while, and I always thought, oh, it'll be nice to be on this. So I'm here. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to make it happen. So maybe perhaps we could start off just talking about marketing audits. I know that's a kind of a very current topic. What is a marketing audit? Who should do it? And what are the benefits?
Yeah, sure. And obviously in the RA world, when you hear about audits, you don't think of it as a good thing, not necessarily, but in
It's true.
marketing it is. And what we do, it's typically the first step that I engage in with a firm. Sometimes it can be very formal, sometimes less formal. It really depends on what stage they're at in their marketing, in their marketing growth. And it starts really with looking at everything that they put out to the public. So obviously their website, social media, but everything
Hmm.
else that goes along with that, the visual tone and colors that they use and what the value proposition is, all the things that go into who they are. And we look at that to see how it's consistent or not consistent and
Hmm.
work on that. But it's certainly the first step in refining uh, the way that firms are perceived by clients, prospects, and centers of influence, because they're all very important, those audiences. And it's
Hmm.
really you're not just marketing to prospects, you're marketing just as much to your own clients, obviously, and or maybe not so obviously. So we look at those things to really try to make sure that they reflect uh, the firm. They are not outdated. Certainly is something we want to make sure of, and that so that what they have is competitive and engaging and hopefully shows prospects, clients, and centers of influence why they're different, but also better than firms that they might be looking at and considering.
Hmm. So are you looking then to identify potential areas of weakness, things that need to be changed, or maybe to make sure that all the parts are the messages in each part of the marketing are kind of consistent with one another to a certain
Yeah,
degree?
yeah, and it's not necessarily so much for mistakes, it's more of just, is it accurately reflecting who they are, what the mission and the culture of the firm are, and across the spectrum, right? If so that the website is consistent with what they're saying on LinkedIn, and maybe there's 5 or 6
Mm-hmm.
people in the firm that have totally different LinkedIn messages that they put together, because no one's ever said you really should have a unified and a uniform look and message to it. And I've worked with small firms and large firms. I worked with a firm that was 50 years old, and they
Hmm.
trying back a few years ago, they never did any marketing at all. And the
Wow.
process, they worked with the custodian for a bit to help them with the process, which is great because the custodians oftentimes have a lot of great resources for them. And they brought me in kind of in the middle. But I think the whole process for them was about a year long to go through to really kind of define who they,
Mm.
where the firm started and where they are now, and what the message is. And then on the other hand, I've sometimes brought in for firms that they just want to make sure that their LinkedIn page, it looks good and is accurate. And that's something that's, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
smaller, and, we do that in 4 weeks. So it can be very varied in terms of what the audit looks like. And again, it's a good audit. It's a good way to start
Right.
the marketing.
So, right. So it's kind of like a roadmap
Yeah.
as to,
It's a start
things
to the
that,
roadmap. Yeah.
yes, unlike what needs to be done next. What about, let's say marketing, let's say an overall marketing plan? I don't know, what do advisors need to know about formulating, an overall marketing plan?
Um, it, it, it's, it's really important to have it in first place. Somebody told me very early in my career, uh, plan your work and work your plan. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
really what a marketing plan should. That's the purpose of the marketing plan, is that it is,
Mm-hmm.
your point of what you just said earlier, is the roadmap. Um, but it's something that should really reflect, what your goals are, your growth in assets under management, or maybe you want to expand a niche
Mm-hmm.
that you've already in, or maybe you're not in yet, and you want to get into that. It reflect if you're looking to hire or launch a new service. All those things should be taken into account. Who you're trying to reach, uh, why they would choose you, and then really, what actions you want them to take. But the main point of the plan is that it's something that, so your tactics are not disjointed, and they move the needle. I think that it doesn't have to be overwhelming to create it. A lot of times, if you're just looking at creating a 3-month marketing calendar, that can be a
Mm-hmm.
plan, and saying, okay, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
send a monthly newsletter, we're going to send out two or three posts a week, and we're going to comment on 5 posts, a week, which is just as important as posting things out there. But it's setting those kind of goals, finding ways to measure and adjust so you can, get better as you go. And the last thing I think with a marketing plan is that it's a marathon in terms of what you're trying to accomplish oftentimes, not a sprint. And
Mm-hmm.
so it can be a heads down effort, and you shouldn't always expect immediate results. If they come, great, but it's really the purpose of the plan is to get you to a point that might be a little further down the road.
Right, but I like the idea of having a marketing plan, excuse me, for a short-term period like 3 months, because then I presume you could see what results you're getting or not getting, and then decide to tweak things a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's all about kind of that continuous process improvement. So you can, what works, what doesn't, and then what to do different based upon that are the three areas that you should keep in mind.
Yeah. How do you think about, let's say, strategy versus tactics? Maybe that you could clarify what the difference is, but
Yeah,
between the two.
sure. So in very simple terms, the strategy is what you're trying to accomplish.
Hmm.
Tactics are how you get there. And there can be there are a lot of different tactics. I always think that oftentimes advisors see a lot of different things, want to try them all, or see kind of shiny objects, and it's not the way to go.
Hmm.
Not like a
Hmm.
whack-a-mole. You don't want to take that approach where you're trying to
Right.
do everything. It's really something
Right.
you try to focus on where you think what's most comfortable for you to do. So if you like to write, come up with a good, a really good insight article that you can post on your website and then share it
Mm-hmm.
the right way, uh,
Mm-hmm.
through email and social. If you're a little bit more outgoing, maybe you want to try something that's public speaking or
Mm-hmm.
your own webinar, like what you're doing, or podcast. There's a lot of different tactics out there. I think the thing to keep in mind is what your resources are, what your bandwidth to actually get them done.
Mm-hmm.
Smaller firms are really better off doing one thing really well and then leveraging that. I work with uh, currently a solo advisor that their their target audience are studio musicians or more and freelance
Mm.
professionals
Mm-hmm.
in the entertainment business, and but sort of behind the scenes people, not the big names that we'd know, but
Mm-hmm.
they tried a lot of different things, and it just they weren't resonating. The typical things that work for a lot of other advisors. So we launched a podcast, and he got some great guests, and it really something that it took off. And hard to always measure, but when he'd see colleagues in the industry, they'd say, "I remember,
Mm-hmm.
how's that podcast going?" And so it's been something
Mm-hmm.
that's been very helpful for them. And it's also something that you can repurpose for the website, YouTube, social media. There's a lot of
Right.
ways to leverage that content.
Right. But that's a very good point, though. When people consider what tactics they want to employ, right, to reach their goal, part of that is just figuring out what you as a person are more comfortable with. Are you going to be comfortable with, you better at writing? Would you rather write or maybe, do webcasts? And everyone has different personalities and different strengths. So that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
When you I mean you mentioned it earlier when you work with, let's say, a small, like a solo practitioner versus like a larger organization, is the difference that the larger organization has more resources to do a lot of different things at once?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Uh, and that's, I said, that's sort of the challenge. And just I always caution smaller advisors not to take on too much, because your appetite to say, "Oh, we can do all these things," uh, is sometimes can take the back seat, as it should, to client, facing
Right,
service things, and that should always be
right,
a priority. And if you're small firm
right.
and you're doing it all, you can't let that suffer. So, yeah, larger firms typically have someone that's dedicated to that effort. It could be somebody that's
Mm-hmm.
both marketing and sales, and maybe even some level of client services.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be just marketing.
Right.
But if they're large enough, they probably do. They probably have a full-time marketing person there. But I think it's important again, I work with a lot of smaller firms, more on the
Mm-hmm.
support side, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's probably because that um, smaller firms, an agency can be overwhelming for them, both in terms of
Right.
the way they work and budgets. Also, I mean, they're a little bit more in that way, and so the good news is there are a lot of consultants in our industry, probably more than most industries. I've been in others and not seen
Mm-hmm.
so many consultants that can help advisors uh,
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways without bringing on a big agency or having to have a full-time person. And there's also a lot of resources that they should be leveraging. There's Redtail, HubSpot. There's probably everyone's heard FMG and Snappy Crack and all these
Mm-hmm.
tools that are
Mm-hmm.
are fairly inexpensive in terms of a marketing budget. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to do more than just that, and you really need to leverage those tools more than just the basics of them. You really have to
Right.
take advantage of them. Otherwise, you become just like everybody else. And
Right.
those tools are very good at allowing you to get marketing out there, but it's not always as personal as what you need to do on your own. So
Right. No,
kind of a
yeah, it
mix.
sounds like you have to take those tools and then in some way put your own brand and personality
Yeah.
into the tools to make yourself memorable
Yeah.
in a certain way. But it's good that, yeah, it sounds like from your description, the people who are going to use a marketing agency are going to be more the giant RIAs, as opposed to an individual practitioner, a smaller
Yeah,
practice,
yeah, I would say
which is
that's true in that. Yeah,
better off with a consultant, which also helps them not to have to hire someone full
yeah,
time.
for sure.
So
Yeah.
that's really good. What are just want to ask you about trends, Bill. What are some of the I don't know, what are some of the industry trends in marketing that advisors should be aware of?
Sure. I mean, trend everywhere is AI, but it really is, it can be a trend, or not can be, it is a trend that's happening in marketing. I was just on a webinar today, in fact, listening to
Oh,
FMG. It was all about answer engine optimization. So most people are familiar
hmm,
with search engine optimization. Uh,
right.
Answer engine optimization is not a brand new term, but it's really what the trend of where people are doing searches. So ChatGPT,
Hmm,
um, Gemini. I think I'm not an expert. I use ChatGPT
yeah,
primarily, probably like everybody else. Uh,
right.
that's where a lot of people are doing their searches now. So that is a big trend in terms of being able to make sure that your digital presence, primarily your website, is something
Hmm,
that is going to be compatible and something that is going to work for you in terms of reshaping your content uh, for this new medium. When people go and search for uh, uh, Chat GPT looking for a financial
hmm,
advisor, is a lot different than the way it comes out on Google. So one of the
hmm,
things this webinar that I went on, and what I'm trying to help educate clients on is making sure that you have some type of like FAQ type page, or your
hmm,
content is answer driven, and that's a
hmm,
big part of that. So it's going to increase the likelihood of being found, uh, and it's not just text; it's also with video and other ways. But it's definitely, that's a big trend, and it's something that not only by doing this, it's going to get more people to your site, but it's going to keep them on the site longer too, because
hmm.
it's more engaging.
Yeah. Does having like an FAQ page, does that help people feel more comfortable, like reaching out, or tell them more like what to expect in
Yeah,
a
yeah,
relationship,
exactly.
that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
yeah. I mean, you could put pretty much everything on there. I mean, some of them are very, 3 or 4 questions.
Hmm.
That's it. But some of them are very detailed, and it tells you everything. And I think the more comfortable somebody is, the more they're going to pick up the phone or
Right.
email. So it should not be something where you're you know it, it's okay in something like an FAQ to give more than you need. You should be giving
Right.
them everything. Whereas there's some places where it's better not to put too much information, overwhelm them. But an FAQ is a place where you can overwhelm them and put out
Oh,
everything, and then and
boy, that's
it's,
that's a good point.
yeah,
That's good to know. I'll have to check my webpage after the webinar now.
yeah. I think all
I to see, I think I have one, but it was a long time ago. Um, maybe we should start to open it up to some questions from the audience. So feel free to send in your questions, or just wait a minute and see what we get here. All right, here's one. What um what marketing strategies or marketing tactics are working particularly well for advisors right now? That's one
yeah.
question.
For me, it's
Broad question.
yeah, no, but it's a good one. So what is the purpose in most financial advisors in their marketing is to either build new relationships or strengthen the ones they have. And
Hmm.
it, what you're doing with marketing and digital marketing that can only do so much. So I think what's really important is to engage with your community, whether it's local or industry. And when I say engage, actually get yourself,
Mm-hmm.
meeting with, you talked about that stack group that I
Right.
miss a meeting because it's so important to,
Right.
to be with my colleagues and talk to them face to face. And I think it's not so easy to get out of the office or out of your comfort zone to, it's very easy
Mm-hmm.
to say, I'll go to the next meeting, but engaging with people,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it firsthand where people make great connections the first time they go into a meeting and like this. And that's the end goal when you're doing these email campaigns and webinars. You want to get FaceTime with people
Right.
and so going to some type of local or industry event where you can shake hands and speak with people and it,
Right.
that to me is the best tactic of all. You
Sure. You could probably learn, you learn a lot, you make relationships with
Yeah, and you
people.
don't have to do it every day. It's, you do it once a month or so and you follow up with those people and it can be very powerful.
Okay, good. Thank you, Bill. Let's see what else. All right. Here's an interesting one. Any tips that you might have on making videos? Someone wants to, I guess, make videos.
Yeah, I think that first, work with a professional because they'll help guide you and they'll know how to prepare you. Help
Mm-hmm.
with the video, and a videographer made sure that the person they were interviewing answered the questions or gave the answers in the question form. So that was very
Mm-hmm.
important. So that the videos could be standalone. Sometimes people don't even think of that when they're doing it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Little tips by
Mm-hmm.
working with a professional will get you there. But it's like any form of marketing. Make sure that it's authentic, that it's provides a clear value to whoever you're speaking with. So really knowing your audience
Mm-hmm.
and keeping it short. It's very
Right.
hard sometimes to say a lot in a short period of time, but that's the most powerful way. So I think the best videos and the engaging ones are less than 2 minutes, sometimes
Right.
less than that.
Okay,
I've seen
good.
15-second videos that are really great snippets and say a lot. And who's got time, these
Yeah.
days? So
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I would say from my experience too, the shorter something is, the more likely people will watch it.
yep.
So that's good advice. What about just a question on podcasts? Any advice on who's suitable for a podcast or why someone should or should not go that route?
Yeah, it definitely something you need to have the time to do. First of all, it's definitely a dedication of planning
Mm-hmm.
and production to do it well. Again, there
Mm-hmm.
are firms that will help you with this, and that's a great way to go about it. The firms that kind of turnkey, but if you do it
Mm-hmm.
on your own, just be prepared to put some time into it. Not necessarily a lot of money, but you have to have a little bit of investment in terms of on the editing and production side. Um, it's definitely, as I was saying earlier, it's kind of a heads down effort where it's going to take a real time to develop a following, but
Right.
but that doesn't mean that if you get 15 or 20 people on listening, if they're really important to you, that's better than 200 people that are not important to you. So but it takes time. And there are a lot of tools to measure the podcasts in terms of listeners and who clicked on and how
Oh,
stay on. So a lot
oh,
of
I see.
podcasting platforms that are out there give you very good statistics. And so there's one called Blueberry where it basically you upload the recording and it gets on all the Apple and iHeartRadio and um,
Oh,
all the other podcasting platforms. So it makes it pretty easy for you. And then it gives you statistics on how long which show did better than the last and kind of,
oh,
yeah, so you can kind of gauge your success as you go, not only on how you're getting better at it, but which topics potentially resonate with people. Sometimes I found
oh,
that's really interesting to see. Um, and
it's
then
helpful.
I think this the last part with podcasting is it's not suited for everyone. I think there's people that are really good at interviewing people. If you're doing a podcast where you're like what you do,
Hmm.
and make
Hmm.
sure that it's really something that's, what's in it for the listener is something you got to think about. And
Right.
some people are much better suited for that. Just they intuitively know what people want to hear and they know how to ask the right questions. So that's an important part of podcasting.
Is there like an optimal length for a podcast, or one like a band an amount of time you'd recommend?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you see some of the ones, the consumer ones that, the most popular ones are over an hour long.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
business ones under a half hour are
Business.
good. It's
Okay.
it's good. And then it's also what you do with it, creating a transcript and having those bite-sized pieces,
Hmm.
making sure there's like a table of contents with the time stamps. So somebody says, I just want to
Uh,
learn about engine optimization. Go to 17.5
oh,
on the thing. So making it digestible is an important part of it.
okay, that's good. No, that's good advice. Let me just take one more. Um, let's see. Here's one we sort of touched on, but how um how could how can AI help me grow my practice, and when should I use it or not use it?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I know it from the marketing perspective because I know that
Right.
a lot of AI tools out there that touch other parts of their business. And
Mm-hmm.
but from a marketing standpoint, it certainly saves time. I use it in terms of just kind of like, if I'm writing an article, I don't rely on it necessarily to write the article for me, but it's a great way to start and kind of gather ideas and framework for it. So definitely something that can save you time. And the challenge is to kind of make it more personal and not rely totally on it.
Right.
And then make sure that it doesn't cause any compliance issues. That's an important part of it
Right.
that you want to make sure of. But you have to be careful. It can, kind of weaken your brand voice by just spreading the wrong information. It's so easy to write something in ask a question in ChatGPT, and 10 seconds later, 10 seconds later, second later, you have an article. And if you just take that article and post it,
Yeah.
getting yourself not only in trouble compliance wise, but also just reputational wise. So uh, that's one thing. But and again, I just think that it's I've heard this before. So technology will not replace advisors. So it's something that,
Mm-hmm.
and it probably won't replace good writers. And so it's important to use it with the mind that you're going to, it's not going to replace the kind of the human touch of that builds the trust and lasting relationships that you want to keep in mind that is most important.
Mm-hmm. No, I strongly agree. I find like with writing, it's good as a frame of reference, but if you're lazy and just copy and paste, it's the writing itself is deadly boring and doesn't really speak to your brand. So it's something you want to integrate into what you're doing rather than just solely rely on it. So I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
a
very
good,
agreeable too. It gives you back what you want, or not necessarily what
right.
you need.
Well, I guess that's that's true too. That's definitely true too. So I think we're pretty much on the half an hour now. Unless you have a concluding comment, I think or something we didn't touch on.
Uh,
Um,
I think we covered a lot of it really. Again, thank you
I
so much.
think I think we covered quite a lot. So I really want to thank you again, Bill. I know I got a lot out of it, and you did share a lot of information on, a number of different topics. And have a great afternoon. Thank you for being here. Have a great afternoon, everyone. And we'll be getting out the recordings, within a day or two. Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you for
thank
coming.
you. Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you for joining. My
Okay,
pleasure.
okay. Bye, everyone.